Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Pick Six YouTube show here at CBS Sports, where we look at the early point spreads for next week's NFL action. Usually, Will Brinson is the host here, but he is not here now, so you are stuck with me, John Breech, and two of the other super friends. Super friend number one down there below me is the second coolest guy I know, named Ryan Wilson. You rank behind Ryan Tannehill, by the way. And super friend number two is the man who has more last names than Patrick Mahomes threw touchdown passes against the Texans. That is Sean Wagner-McGough. We're the Super Friends, and remember, you can listen to us all the time, every day. Will Brinson is usually the host. Go to Apple, go to wherever you download podcasts, and download the Pick Six podcast. All right, now we are here to talk about the early point spreads for the AFC and NFC championship games, which are both being held next Sunday. So let's get this started right now. First game on our docket this week is the AFC title game, where we have one team that everyone expected to be there, the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we have another team that no one expected to be there in the Tennessee Titans. And I don't think anyone's expecting the Titans to win because the Chiefs have opened up as a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Ryan Wilson, I'm going to start with you. Do you dare pick against the Tennessee Titans this week?
Your Tennessee Titans, Johnny Nashville. I'm surprised you didn't throw that in there. You already slapped me in the face by saying that was the second best Ryan you know after Ryan Tannehill. Deservedly so. I'll give Tannehill the props for being at least your MVP in the 2019 season. Look, here's the deal. If you listen to the audio podcast on Saturday night after the first round of divisional playoff games, we all four of us, even Brinson included, said the Chiefs are going to blow the doors off the Texans. And about 15 minutes in that game, we were all scrambling to figure out ways to get that podcast deleted from the feed. We just needed to wait a little while. And at the end of the day, obviously, the Chiefs did, in fact, blow the doors off Bill O'Brien and the Texans. Here's the deal. Is that going to happen again with the Titans? 7.5 feels like a whole lot, and here's why. We've seen the Titans win two really good football games by playing some tough-nosed football. I sound like a bag of old-school football cliches, but they ran all over the Patriots, and then they ran all over the Ravens. And here's the deal. If you have Derrick Henry and he can control the clock for you and just drag defense up and down the field, it certainly shortens the game, but also makes it a lot tougher for the Chiefs when they have the ball to score a lot of points and get up to run up a huge margin. All that said, I feel like the Chiefs, I think they're going to win this game. I know, John, you're going to come back in a few minutes and tell us why they won't, because the Titans have beaten them previously. But I think it's going to be close, primarily because of Derrick Henry, secondarily because Mike Vrabel is, as I've said in the two previous weeks, he does not care where they play. And he has that team believing that they can beat anyone with Ryan Tannehill. I always laugh when I say that. So I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think it's going to be a much closer game than we saw against the Texans. And I don't want to touch the over-under just yet. I have to think more about that at 52. But Chiefs win, Titans cover.
So I agree with Ryan that I think the Chiefs are going to win. However, I think this is going to be a blowout. I think we're going to see a second straight big Chiefs win. This is what I took away from Sunday's game. The Chiefs are only stoppable on offense is if they are stopping themselves. Patrick Mahomes' first 10 passes, I believe 4 or 5 of them were dropped. That was really the only times throughout the entire game the Texans were able to stop the Chiefs' offense. The Chiefs' offense scored 7 straight touchdowns on 7 possessions. That is incredible. On their 8th possession, they kicked the field goal down inside the 5-yard line. This offense is rolling right now. It looks like they got the jitters out of their system after the week off. So I think they're going to keep on rolling, which means the Titans, yes, they have Derrick Henry, but if they're trailing in this game, which is what I think the game script is going to be, Ryan Tannehill is going to have to open it up and throw the ball. And Ryan Tannehill has been phenomenal this season. I ranked him as the 5th best quarterback coming into the playoffs. So I don't want to turn this into a slanderous, Ryan Tannehill podcast. I agree with Breech. Ryan Wilson on this podcast is the second best Ryan that we know behind Ryan Tannehill. That said, this Chiefs defense is really good against the pass, and they've been getting better and better all season. And you look at the final score against the Texans, you think, the defense might not have played that well. Deshaun Watson got his. I actually think they played pretty well. 14 of those points that the Chiefs spotted the Texans were entirely due to special teams. And I don't think the Titans can count on that again. The Chiefs special teams were ranked first by DVOA throughout the regular season. So those mistakes that we saw in the first quarter were just very uncharacteristic. The one thing I will say, the name you got to keep an eye on is Chris Jones. He is probably their best pass rusher. He's great against the run in the interior of the Chiefs' defensive line. He did not play due to an injury. If he cannot play, I will be worried, and I think the Titans can stick around because I think Derrick Henry will be able to run the ball. But if he plays and if he's able to be in there and clog up the run game, I'm not sure the Titans can keep pace. Again, no offense to the Titans. They're a remarkable story. Ryan Tannehill should win Comeback Player of the Year. I thought he played like a top 5 quarterback all year. The only problem is they're going against Patrick Mahomes, who right now is the best player on the planet regardless of position. So I'll take the Chiefs to win a big one.
The only problem for the Titans in the wild card round was they were going up against Bill Belichick. The only problem in the division round was they were going up against the best team in football, the 14-2 Ravens. The Titans love problems. They dominate problems. Ryan, the reason I didn't bring up my picks earlier is because I wanted to let you guys talk first before I rubbed your noses in the fact that I am 2-0 picking the Titans straight up. I predicted that they would upset the New England Patriots, not just cover the 4.5-point spread in the wild card round, but win the game. I predicted that they would beat the Baltimore Ravens, not just cover the 9.5-point spread that closed at 10 points, but that they would win the game outright. And now, you know what? They are going for AFC Yahtzee. They beat the AFC South champ in Week 17. They beat the AFC East champ in the wild card round. They beat the AFC North champ in the divisional round. Now they're going after the AFC West champ, and the reason I think it's possible is because of Derrick Henry. I think a lot of people maybe thought in that wild card game, hey, maybe Derrick Henry caught the Patriots off guard. They just weren't ready for that. Against the Ravens, it was, hey, he's just bigger than everyone. He wore them down, not ready. But there's no excuses anymore. This is Derrick Henry. He can run over people. We've seen him run over 2 straight teams, 180 yards or more in both games. And you know what? Out of all the teams the Titans will have played in the playoffs, the Chiefs have the worst run defense out of any of them. They gave up nearly 130 yards per game on the ground this season. They gave up 4.9 yards per carry. That was the 4th worst in the NFL. Derrick Henry might average 8 yards per carry against a defense like that, especially if, like Sean said, Chris Jones isn't playing. That's up in the air. That would be a huge, huge loss if the Chiefs are missing a key defensive lineman like that. I am not ready to say whether or not I think the Titans are going to pull the upset here, but I do absolutely think they are going to cover the 7.5 points. So I will be betting that all day. The other thing I will be betting is I actually think this is going to be a high-scoring game. That over-under is 52. I think the final score is going to be around 30 to 27-ish. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Chiefs with that 30 or the Titans with that 30. But as Sean said, if Ryan Tannehill can get going, we've seen him come up with a couple clutch passes. He threw a deep touchdown pass against the Ravens. He threw a touchdown pass against the Patriots. He had the highest QB rate in the NFL this year, highest yards per attempt. So he can play when the Titans need him to. They just haven't needed him to because Derrick Henry's running over everyone. So I am taking the over on that one. That's where I'm leaning right now. So enough Titans, though, because obviously I could sit here and talk about them all day, as you guys know. So let's move on to the NFC Championship game where the San Francisco 49ers are a 7.5-point favorite over the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is a rematch of a game from earlier this season that the 49ers won 37-8 at Levi's Stadium. Sean, you kind of led the anti-brigade against Aaron Rodgers this year, so I'm going to let you go first on this pick.
Not past tense, Breech, not led. I am leading the anti-Aaron Rodgers brigade. I'm not quitting it now just because he tore up a really bad Seahawks secondary. Guess what? He's going from facing the 18th best defense by DVOA to the 2nd best defense by DVOA in San Francisco. We just saw San Francisco completely dominate the Vikings up front. They only needed to send 4 rushers home every single time, which allowed them to drop 7 men back into coverage. If they can do that again against the Packers, I think that's going to cause Aaron Rodgers a lot of fits. Look, I'm not going to take that much away from the Packers win over the Seahawks. That's the bottom line. I think we've been saying all season long the Seahawks team was kind of masquerading around as a good team, but because they won so many one-score games, and we kind of finally saw their luck run out in another one-score game. So I'm not taking that much away from that. The Packers have to go from facing a Brian Schottenheimer offense to facing a Kyle Shanahan offense. Big difference. They have to go from facing the Seahawks defense, 49ers defense. Big difference. We all saw what happened the last time they played. That might have been Rodgers' worst game of his entire career. I think the key will be, as I said, how they hold up front. The Packers' offensive line actually led the league in pass block win rate, according to ESPN. If they can do that, then I think they have a fighting chance. The only problem is defensively. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to scheme up a lot of openings for Garoppolo. We saw Russell Wilson in the second half play very well once the Seahawks allowed him to open it up and use his legs. And here's the key. Packers are 23rd against the run by DVOA. We know the 49ers love to run the ball, and we know they're really damn good at running the ball because Kyle Shanahan draws up really interesting running schemes that isn't boring, Seahawks types of run plays. We just watched them grind down the Vikings and kind of steal their soul in the second half after they wore them down. I think the same thing happens again. I think this is a blowout. I think we're going to get 2 blowout games. But I think it's fine because I think we're going to get the 2 best teams in the Super Bowl. And I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFC. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. And I think it should be a great Super Bowl. But I'm a little bit afraid that this conference championship weekend is going to be 2 blowouts.
I'm not as down on Aaron Rodgers as Sean Wagner-McGough. That's probably because he is more down on Aaron Rodgers than anyone on planet Earth, including his former girlfriend who used to be that superhero. You know her name, John. I can't remember it. But anyway, here's the deal. Aaron Rodgers made some pretty spectacular throws on Sunday night. So the fact that Sean's trying to take that away from him and just sort of paint this using broad brush to paint this picture that he is suddenly a replacement level quarterback, I think that's a little overstating it, especially when he's going up against Jimmy G, who is replacement level, maybe slightly better. So I think if you had to take a quarterback in that matchup, you would take Aaron Rodgers. And we always say that Aaron Rodgers is the guy, even if he's not having his best season, who you would most fear going off for something like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't think that's happening against the 49ers. I think Sean's actually right about the end game. I think the 49ers are going to win that game. If the Vikings can't go in there and compete, I don't think the Packers are going to have a chance to do much in the way of competing, given that their roster isn't as good top to bottom as the Vikings roster. And ultimately, this is what it comes down to. And we say this every week, and Sean sort of alluded to it. When all else fails, compare the coaches. And I'm taking Kyle Shanahan in that matchup. I know that John Breech is our Matt LaFleur doppelganger, but in terms of play calling, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best on the planet. He's probably the likely candidate now for Coach of the Year now that he's still in this thing. And Matt LaFleur is obviously in it as well. If he wins this game, he'll probably wrap it up. But I think that's a lot to ask, given where this Packers team is right now and given how well the 49ers defense is playing. We thought that maybe the 49ers defense would not be able to carry the 49ers through the playoffs if Jimmy G didn't show up. Jimmy G showed up. Kyle Shanahan showed up. The running game showed up. Deebo Samuel showed up. Manny Sanders showed up. George Kittle showed up. I suspect all those guys will show up again next week and make it for a very long afternoon, evening for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see what happens. The 7 is a lot. But again, and I hate to do this, I think Sean's right. I think that the 49ers are going to cover that. And you know what? While we're on it, and I'm loving Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan, I'll even predict a 49ers defensive score, even though Aaron Rodgers never scores touchdowns. Maybe there's a fumble somewhere. And I'm going to take the over 45 too, Johnny.
Whoa, Ryan, that is a bold prediction. Go with a defensive touchdown there. I'm going to clarify 2 things real quick. I made up a magical point spread. The point spread is 7 points, not 7.5. And number 2, no one will be winning the Coach of the Year award based on this game, Ryan, because they vote on that at the end of the regular season. However, they might win the Ryan Wilson Coach of the Year award, which is equally prestigious. So I am not going to discount that. I hope you give it to Matt LaFleur. Since he is my doppelganger and twin, as you mentioned, that should give him a nudge whether he wins or loses this game. And Olivia Munn was the person you're referring to. Now, as for what I think about this game, look, the Packers went into Levi's Stadium a couple months ago, and they got beat down. I mean, that was as ugly as it gets. The 49ers won 37-8. They weren't even fully healthy on defense. The 49ers didn't have all their starters that they're going to have this week in the NFC title game. And the Packers could not do anything. Aaron Rodgers was pressured that whole game, and that's what the 49ers defensive front does to you. They just wear you down. We saw him do it to Drew Brees. We saw him do it to Kirk Cousins, and maybe 2014 Aaron Rodgers, who could still run around a lot and make plays happen, could beat this 49ers defensive front and this 49ers defense. But this year's Aaron Rodgers, he just doesn't have that mobility. I know sometimes we see him escape the pocket and he'll get out of there for a 3-5 yard run, but he's just not as mobile as he used to be. And when you're playing his team as athletic as the 49ers are, that's a huge issue. So Rodgers going to be a statue back there. I think he's going to get sacked a bunch of times. I'm not sure how the Packers are going to score. The 49ers secondary, they're not going to leave Devontae Adams wide open on every play like the Seattle Seahawks did in the divisional round. So I don't think Devontae Adams is going to have a big game. So really, it's going to come down. The only way the Packers are going to be able to stay in this game is if Aaron Jones can run the ball. If the 49ers have struggled a little bit with one thing on defense, it's that they've been giving up, I think, more than 110 yards per game on the ground. So the Packers need to control the flow of the game, just pound Aaron Jones, and then hope Aaron Rodgers can come. They basically need to steal a Titans game plan, run, and then Aaron Rodgers turns into Ryan Tannehill, makes key throws when they need him to. But I don't think that's going to happen. I like the 49ers to win this. I don't think it's going to be quite the blowout that Sean says. I like the 49ers to win by about 10 points, cover the 7-point spread. And maybe that final score is about 35-25. So I think this will go over. The over-under is 45. So I'm about 5-7 points over that. And that's it, guys. That is our final prediction until we get to the Super Bowl. So that's all we have for this week. And make sure to subscribe to the Big Six podcast. We'll see you for our Super Bowl predictions.